Hello and welcome back to StatLab. Today we're going to start talking about hypothesis testing with means. To begin, we're going to quickly define our symbols. So our population mean is mu, our sample mean is y bar, our sample size is n, our standard error is going to be our standard deviation over the square root of n, and our test statistic is going to be y bar minus mu over that standard error. Now we'll also have a critical value t, which we'll talk about at another time, or confidence intervals. That's going to come from the t-table. And of course our degrees of freedom is going to be n minus 1. Now we're going to start using the t-table instead of the z-table that we were using before. Now I have a separate video on how to use the t-table if you're not completely familiar with how the t-table works, so check that out. I'll put a link in the description. Let's start with the assumptions and conditions. We always start with our independence assumption, randomization condition, and this one is the same as normal. This is met if the sample size was randomly selected from the population of all whatever you're talking about. Normal population assumption, nearly normal condition. So this condition is only met if you can confirm the distribution is normal with a histogram or some other information. If you cannot confirm that the distribution is normal, or you know it's skewed, you must refer to the sample size assumption. And so the sample size assumption, large enough condition, is where we use that central limit theorem to decide if our sample size is large enough. So let's look at this a little more closely. So basically, if n is less than 15, that underlying distribution must be normally distributed for the distribution of means to be normally distributed. If n is greater than 15 but less than 40, the underlying distribution can be somewhat skewed with no outliers, and this distribution of means will still be normally distributed. Now, if n is greater than 40, the underlying distribution can be skewed with outliers, and the distribution of means will still be normally distributed. So generally, without a histogram, you need a sample size greater than 40 to be sure the condition is met, unless they've told you in the story that it's only slightly skewed or there's no outliers. So if you have a sample of less than 40 and you don't know the distribution, you need to say something like this. Without a histogram to confirm the distribution, a sample size of may not be large enough for the condition to be met, and therefore we should proceed with caution. But if you knew your distribution, then you can make your decision directly, or if your sample size is greater than 40, then you can just go ahead and say the condition is met because your sample is greater than 40. So let's now look at how we would do a hypothesis test for means. As always, our null hypothesis is sort of testing that the results that are already known are true, and our alternative hypothesis is sort of what we want to find out. So HO is going to be that mu equals some number, and HA is going to be that mu is greater than, less than, or not equal to that same value. And of course, we have to define what mu is. So we would say for the population of all, whatever you're talking about, let mu be the average, and you have to put your context in there. So now let's take a look at an actual question, because it makes a lot more sense when we actually use real things. A local real estate agency claims that the average cost of a home in Halifax is $630,000. A researcher believes that recent market shifts lowered the average. They randomly sampled 25 recent home sales and find a sample mean of 551,600 with a sample standard deviation of 140,000. Test the researcher's claim at a significance level of 0.05. First of all, of course, are our assumptions and conditions met? So when we check our independence assumption, randomization condition, of course, they said that it was randomly selected, so this condition is met. Our normal population assumption, nearly normal condition. We don't have a histogram, and they haven't told us anything about this distribution, so we must refer to our sample size assumption. And then when we do our sample size assumption, we have a sample size of 25. So without knowing if there's any kind of outliers or how skewed this might be, we have to use that special sentence where we say without a histogram to confirm the distribution, a sample size of 25 may not be large enough for the condition to be met, and therefore we should proceed with caution. And in fact, you should probably say without a histogram to confirm the distribution of those sale values. Now let's start looking at our actual hypothesis. So they're saying that the mean is 630,000. We're testing to see if it is 551,600. Our standard deviation is 140,000. We have a sample size of 25, which means our degrees of freedom are 24, and they've given us an alpha of 0.05. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to state our hypothesis in context and define the parameter. So HO, mu equals 630,000. HA is that mu is less than 630,000. And of course, we have to define what mu is. So for the population of all recent home sales in Halifax, Nova Scotia, let mu be the average cost of a home sold. Now we're going to want to calculate the test statistic so we can actually see the results of our test. So T equals y bar minus mu over that standard error. So if we fill in our values, we're going to have 551,600 minus our 630,000 over our standard deviation divided by the square root of 25, and we're going to get down to this, and then we're going to find that we have a t-value of minus 2.80. So let's add that up there with our statistics. Now we want to find and interpret the p-value. So we need two things to find our p-value. We need our degrees of freedom, and we need our test statistic. So let's look at a t-table. So first thing we have to do is go to the degrees of freedom, which is 24. So that's going to be this row right here. And then we want to try and find 2.80. Now the t-table doesn't care about negative or positive, so you're just simply looking for the value. So we can see that our number is not even in this row. 2.80 is greater than the largest number, which is 2.797. So we know we're off the table on the right-hand side. So our value is going to be less than this 0.005. And of course, I'm taking the one-tail probability because we said less than. We did not say not equal to when we stated our hypothesis. So we'll say that our p-value is going to be less than 0.005. So now that we have our p-value, we can now interpret the p-value. So this is how the interpretation would sound. If the population mean cost of homes sold in Halifax, Nova Scotia really is $630,000, and the test assumptions hold, there is less than a 0.005 probability of taking a random sample of 25 homes and getting a sample mean of 551,600 or less. So when you think about that, it's saying that there's almost no chance that you could take a sample and find that result. But that's what happened. So that's why we reject the null hypothesis when we have a very small p-value, because it's saying it's almost impossible that the null hypothesis is true. Okay, so we're going to state our conclusion in context. So if you recall, I said that we had to proceed with caution. Our conditions may not be met. So I can't say since my assumptions, I have to say if. So if the assumptions hold and the distribution is not overly skewed at the 5% significance level, include your p-value, we can conclude that for the population of all recent home sales in Halifax, Nova Scotia, the average cost of a home is less than $630,000. Now, remember, everything that's in here is important. You have to put all that context in there. I can't just say recent home sales. I can't even just say recent home sales in Halifax. I have to say Halifax, Nova Scotia. So any detail that is given to you in the question, you make sure that you repeat it in your answer. So based on your conclusion, if we calculated a 95% confidence interval, would you expect to find 630,000 inside the interval? So think about that. Drop your answer in the comments and also include how you know the answer to that. If you don't know the answer to that, you're going to want to check out our next video, which will be on confidence intervals for means, where we go over that specific confidence interval, and it'll help you understand how everyone else would know that answer. So if you like this video, hit like, and if you want to see more videos like this, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.